When you let go of what I am, I become what I might be. These words, spoken by the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu over 2,000 years ago, echo across the centuries with a truth that strikes at the very heart of human suffering. They speak to something we all know intimately but rarely acknowledge: the crushing weight of burdens we were never meant to carry. People become attached to their burdens, sometimes more than the burdens are attached to them. So observed George Bernard Shaw, capturing in a single sentence the strange paradox of human nature. We cling to our worries, our regrets, our need for control, even as they drain the life from our days and the peace from our nights. And from the desert sands of ancient Arabia comes another voice, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who taught his followers a prayer of release. O Allah, I seek refuge in you from anxiety and sorrow, weakness and laziness, miserliness and cowardice, the burden of debts, and from being overpowered by men. This supplication, preserved in the Hadith collections, acknowledges what every human soul eventually discovers: that we are burdened and we need relief. Tonight, as you settle into the stillness of this moment, you're invited on a journey through the wisdom of three great traditions. From the spiritual depth of Islam, the flowing philosophy of ancient China's Taoism, and the grounded practicality of Stoicism, we'll explore a singular truth that could change everything. Most of what weighs you down was never yours to carry in the first place. The modern burden crisis . In the blue glow of screens and the constant hum of notifications, in the endless scroll of other people's curated lives and the relentless pressure to achieve, optimize, and become, we live in an age of unprecedented burden. Not the physical burdens of our ancestors, who carried water from wells and plowed fields by hand, but something perhaps more insidious: the weight of infinite possibility combined with the anxiety of infinite responsibility. You feel it in your shoulders, don't you? That tightness that never quite releases. You feel it in your chest, that subtle constriction that makes deep breathing difficult. You feel it in your mind, that constant background hum of worry, the to-do lists that multiply faster than you can complete them, the conversations you replay, the decisions you second-guess, the futures you try to control. Modern life has given us unprecedented tools and undreamed of comforts, yet we are, in many ways, more burdened than ever. We carry the weight of constant connectivity, never truly able to disconnect from work, from social obligations, from the problems of the world streaming endlessly through our devices. We carry the burden of comparison, measuring ourselves against impossible standards and curated perfection. We carry the weight of choice, paradoxically crushed by the very abundance of options that was supposed to free us. Consider for a moment the invisible weights you've been carrying. There's the weight of other people's expectations, the versions of yourself you think you should be to please your parents, your partners, your peers. There's the weight of past mistakes, those moments you replay in your mind at 3 in the morning, wishing you could rewrite history. There's the weight of future anxieties, all the terrible things that might happen, the plans that could fail, the security that might crumble. And then there are the more subtle burdens, the ones we don't even recognize as weight because we've carried them so long they feel like part of us. The burden of perfectionism, the need to get everything exactly right. The burden of control, the exhausting attempt to orchestrate every outcome. The burden of resentment toward those who've wronged us. The burden of guilt for not being enough, not doing enough, not achieving enough. These weights accumulate slowly, imperceptibly, like snow gathering on a roof. One flake is nothing. 100 flakes are barely noticeable. But thousands, millions eventually create a load that threatens to collapse the entire structure. And so we find ourselves, on an ordinary Tuesday evening, suddenly unable to remember what lightness feels like. A woman named Sarah, a software engineer in her 30s, described her experience of this accumulating weight. I would wake up tired, she said, even after 8 hours of sleep. Not physically tired, mentally exhausted. It felt like I was running a marathon in my mind every night, trying to solve problems, control outcomes, worry about everything that could go wrong at work, in my relationships, with my health. My therapist asked me to make a list of everything I was trying to control, and when I finished, I had filled 3 pages. 3 pages of things I was spending mental energy on, most of which I had absolutely no power to change. This is the crisis of modern burden. We have confused responsibility with control, care with worry, planning with anxiety. We think that if we just think about something hard enough, worry about it thoroughly enough, we can prevent disaster. We think that if we maintain constant vigilance, nothing bad will happen. We think that if we work hard enough, prove ourselves worthy enough, life will finally feel secure. But here's what we discover, often too late. Worry has never prevented a single problem. Anxiety has never changed an outcome. The exhausting effort to control everything around us has never brought peace. Consider the executive who lies awake at night rehearsing presentations, replaying conversations, strategizing for meetings that haven't happened yet. She tells herself this is preparation, that she's being responsible. But what's actually happening is that she's carrying tomorrow's work into tonight's rest, borrowing future anxiety into the present moment, trying to control outcomes through mental rehearsal. The presentation will go how it goes. Her nighttime worry won't improve it. All it does is steal her sleep and leave her exhausted when the actual moment arrives. Or think about the parent who can't stop worrying about their adult children. Every unanswered text triggers catastrophic thinking. Every choice the child makes becomes the parent's burden to carry. The parent tells themselves this is love, this is caring. But what it actually is an attempt to control another person's life, to carry responsibility that belongs to someone else. The worry doesn't protect the child. It doesn't make them safer or wiser. It just exhausts the parent and strains the relationship. There's the student who carries the weight of perfect grades, convinced that anything less than excellence will destroy their future. They study until exhaustion, sacrifice sleep and social connection, live in constant anxiety about failure. They've confused the genuine responsibility to do their best with the crushing burden of needing to be perfect, of thinking their worth depends on their achievements, of believing they can control outcomes through sheer force of worry and effort. Or the person scrolling through social media late at night, absorbing the pain and problems of the entire world, feeling guilty for not doing more, not caring enough, not solving problems they have no power to solve. They carry the weight of wars they can't stop, injustices they can't fix, suffering they can't prevent. This isn't consciousness or compassion. It's a form of burden addiction, gathering up weights that don't belong to them until they're crushed under the accumulation. These examples might sound extreme, but they're not. They're ordinary. They're how most of us live now, carrying invisible weights we can't even name because we've been carrying them so long they feel like part of us. The burden of productivity culture, where rest feels like laziness and every moment must be optimized. The burden of information overload, where we're expected to have informed opinions about everything happening everywhere. The burden of consumer culture, where we're told we need more, better, different to finally be enough. The burden of comparison culture, where everyone else's highlight reel becomes the standard we're failing to meet. The medical community has documented the physical toll of this mental burden. Chronic stress, which is essentially the body's response to carrying too much weight, contributes to heart disease, digestive problems, insomnia, weakened immunity, and accelerated aging. The constant flood of stress hormones like cortisol wreaks havoc on every system in the body. Psychologically, the burden manifests as anxiety disorders, depression, burnout, and a pervasive sense of disconnection from joy. We live in what psychologists call a state of chronic activation. Our nervous system's constantly on alert, our bodies prepared for threats that never quite materialize but never quite disappear either. It's as if we're carrying a heavy backpack filled with rocks, and we've worn it so long we've forgotten what it feels like to set it down. In traditional societies, there were built-in mechanisms for release. Sabbath days when work ceased entirely. Harvest festivals where communities came together in celebration. Pilgrimage journeys that took people out of their ordinary lives. Rituals of confession and absolution. These weren't mere superstitions or quaint customs. They were wisdom about the human need to periodically release the weight, to remember that we are not, in fact, responsible for holding the entire world on our shoulders. Modern life has largely abandoned these rhythms of release. We have productivity but not rest. We have achievement but not celebration. We have responsibility but not release. And so the weight accumulates year after year until we find ourselves wondering why life feels so heavy, why joy feels so distant, why peace seems impossible. But here's the truth that the ancient wisdom traditions understood and that modern psychology is rediscovering. Most of what you're carrying isn't yours. Most of the weight crushing your spirit, stealing your sleep, and draining your energy consists of burdens you were never meant to bear. Worries about things you cannot control. Responsibilities that belong to others. Standards imposed from outside rather than chosen from within. Futures that may never arrive. Pasts that cannot be changed. The question that will guide us through this night is simple but profound. What if you could set it down? Not tomorrow, not after you've accomplished one more thing, not when circumstances finally align perfectly, but now, tonight, in this very moment. What if the weight you've been carrying your entire life could be released with a single shift in understanding? This isn't about irresponsibility or apathy. It's about discernment. It's about learning the difference between genuine responsibility and imaginary burden, between things we can change and things we must accept, between effort that serves and effort that exhausts. 3 ancient wisdom traditions, arising from different cultures and different times, discovered this same truth through different paths. Their teachings converge on a liberating insight. Freedom comes not from carrying everything perfectly, but from learning what to carry and, more importantly, what to release. Islamic wisdom on letting go ===. In the heart of Islamic teaching lies a concept so powerful, so transformative, that it could change your entire relationship with burden and worry. The Arabic word is tawakkul, and while it's often translated simply as trust in God or reliance on Allah, its full meaning runs much deeper. Tawakkul is the art of carrying what's yours to carry while releasing what belongs to the divine. It's the practice of doing your absolute best and then letting go of the outcome, surrendering the results to Allah's wisdom and mercy. The foundation of this teaching comes directly from the Quran, where Allah says, Allah does not charge a soul except with that which is within its capacity. This verse, revealed during the most difficult period of early Muslim persecution in Mecca, carries a revolutionary promise. You will never be given more than you can handle. The weight you feel crushing you isn't coming from God. It's coming from trying to carry things beyond your capacity, things that were never meant to be your burden. Think about what this means. The Creator of the universe, who knows every cell in your body, every thought in your mind, every secret fear in your heart, has calibrated your challenges to your capacity. The feeling of being overwhelmed, then, doesn't come from the tests themselves but from adding to them. Adding worry about the future, anxiety about outcomes, obsessive replaying of the past, attempts to control things beyond your reach. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught this through a beautiful metaphor. When asked about tawakkul, he said that you should tie your camel first, then trust in Allah. This simple teaching contains profound wisdom. You do what's in your power, you secure your camel, you take the practical steps available to you, you apply effort and care. But then, and this is crucial, you release the outcome. You don't stay up all night worrying whether someone might steal your camel despite your precautions. You don't second guess whether you tied the knot correctly. You do your part, and then you let go, trusting that what happens next is in the hands of the All-Wise. This isn't passivity. It's not about sitting back and waiting for miracles while neglecting your responsibilities. One of the most misunderstood aspects of Islamic teaching on trust is that it requires action first. The birds, as the Prophet taught, go out in the morning with empty stomachs and return in the evening full. But they go out. They take flight. They search for sustenance. They do their part. And then the provision comes from Allah. The same hadith appears in different collections, teaching that whoever relieves a Muslim of some worldly distress, Allah will relieve him of some of the distress of the day of resurrection. This reveals another layer of Islamic wisdom about burden. We're not meant to carry our loads alone. Community, mutual support, sharing our struggles. These aren't signs of weakness but expressions of how we're designed to function. The individualistic burden-bearing of modern culture, where asking for help feels like failure, contradicts the Islamic vision of a society where believers lighten each other's loads. Consider the prayer taught by the Prophet for times of anxiety and stress. O Allah, I hope for your mercy. Do not leave me to myself even for the blink of an eye, and put right for me all my affairs. There is no God but you. This dua acknowledges a profound truth. When left entirely to ourselves, we become overwhelmed. The burden of managing every detail, controlling every outcome, solving every problem through our own limited wisdom and power. It's too much. It was always too much. We were designed to need Allah, to rely on His mercy, to trust His wisdom. The Islamic concept of qadar, often translated as divine decree or destiny, further illuminates this teaching. Everything that happens has already been written, decreed by Allah's perfect knowledge and wisdom. This doesn't negate free will or responsibility. You still must choose, act, and strive. But it releases you from the crushing burden of thinking that everything depends on you, that any mistake will be catastrophic, that you must achieve perfect control to ensure good outcomes. Imagine living with this certainty. Whatever is meant for you will reach you, and whatever is not meant for you will never be yours, no matter how hard you strive. This doesn't produce laziness but liberation. You still work, plan, and make effort, but without the anxious attachment to results. You still care deeply, but without the crushing weight of thinking you control the outcome. The scholars of Islam have written extensively about the relationship between worry and faith. Al-Qurtubi, commenting on the verse about Allah not burdening a soul beyond its capacity, noted that trials and hardships actually serve to expiate sins and elevate one's rank with Allah. They're not punishments to dread but opportunities for growth, purification, and divine reward. This perspective transforms suffering from something to resist and resent into something that can be met with patience and even gratitude. One of the most hope-inspiring verses in the Quran, according to the companion Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, is this one: "Whatever misfortune befalls you, it is due to what your own hands have earned, and He pardons much." Ali's reflection on this verse was profound. If my sins are expiated through the trials I face, and beyond that Allah still forgives much, then what remains? After both the purification of hardship and the mercy of divine forgiveness, what burden is left to carry? This is the essence of Islamic teaching on release. You're not meant to carry the weight of your past sins, because Allah's forgiveness is greater than any transgression. You're not meant to carry the weight of future anxieties, because Allah knows what you don't know and plans better than you can plan. You're not meant to carry burdens beyond your capacity, because Allah never gives more than you can handle with His help. The practice of tawakkul transforms daily life. Instead of waking up with the weight of 1,000 concerns, you wake and say, "This is the day that Allah has made." Instead of lying awake at night replaying failures and planning frantically for futures that may never come, you recite the evening remembrances and trust that Allah is the best guardian. Instead of collapsing under the pressure of responsibilities, you do your part and then release the outcome, knowing that success and failure are both in Allah's hands. Consider how this might work in practical situations. You're facing a job interview that feels like your entire future depends on it. The modern approach is to carry the crushing weight of that outcome, rehearsing endlessly, catastrophizing about failure, losing sleep over what might happen. The tawakkul approach is different. You prepare thoroughly, practice your responses, research the company. You do everything in your power to present yourself well. That's your responsibility. But then you release the outcome. Whether you get the job or not is in Allah's hands. Perhaps this job is meant for you and will be a blessing. Perhaps it's not meant for you and something better awaits. Your job is to do your part with excellence. The result? That's Allah's domain. Or imagine you're worried about a loved one's health. The modern burden is to carry anxiety like it's helpful, to catastrophize about worst-case scenarios, to try to control the uncontrollable through worry. The tawakkul approach acknowledges your genuine concern and channels it into action. You help them get medical care, you pray for them, you offer practical support. But then you release what's not in your hands. You can't control the outcome. You can't heal them through worry. You trust that whatever Allah decrees contains wisdom, even if you can't see it yet. This doesn't mean you don't care. It means you carry your care without letting it become crushing anxiety. Think about financial stress, something almost everyone faces. The burden approach is to lie awake calculating, worrying, playing out disaster scenarios. What if I lose my job? What if the car breaks down? What if? The tawakkul approach is to do what's practical and wise, budget carefully, save what you can, work diligently. but then recognize that provision comes from Allah. The birds go out in the morning with empty stomachs and return full, but they go out. They take flight. They do their part. And then the provision comes. You do your part with finances, and then you trust that what you need will come, perhaps in ways you don't expect. There's a hadith where the Prophet describes how Allah responds when a servant relieves the burden of another believer. Whoever relieves a believer of some worldly distress, Allah will relieve him of some of the distress of the day of resurrection. This creates a beautiful cycle. As you release your own burdens through tawakkul, you become more available to help lighten the burdens of others. And as you help others, Allah relieves your own distress. The community becomes a network of mutual support, everyone carrying what they can and helping with what others cannot. The Islamic path to releasing burden is both deeply spiritual and intensely practical. Spiritually, it requires cultivating awareness of Allah's presence, mercy, and wisdom. It requires developing the quality of Huzn al-Dan, thinking well of Allah, trusting that whatever He decrees contains wisdom and blessing, even when you can't see it. Practically, it requires doing what's in your power with excellence and then consciously releasing what's not in your power. When you face a challenge, the Islamic approach would be to analyze it carefully. What can I actually control here? What action can I take? Then take that action with full commitment and skill. But once you've done your part, release it. Make dua, ask Allah for the best outcome, and then trust that what happens next is in the hands of the All-Wise, the most merciful, the one who knows better than you do what's good for you. This practice of action followed by release, effort followed by trust, doing followed by letting go, this is tawakkul. It's not a passive acceptance of whatever happens. It's an active engagement with life, combined with a peaceful surrender of outcomes. You prepare for the exam but trust Allah with the results. You apply for the job but trust Allah with whether you get it. You care for your health but trust Allah with how long you'll live. And here's what happens when you practice this consistently. The weight lifts. Not because your circumstances necessarily change, but because you're no longer adding unnecessary burden to what life actually requires. You're no longer carrying the weight of what-ifs and what-might-have-beens. You're no longer crushed by the impossible task of controlling the uncontrollable. In Islamic tradition, there's a concept called sabr, usually translated as patience but really meaning something closer to beautiful perseverance. It's the ability to remain steadfast, to keep going, not with gritted teeth and tense shoulders, but with an open heart that trusts Allah's wisdom. Sabr isn't passive endurance. It's active peace in the face of difficulty. And it becomes possible through tawakkul, through releasing the burden of thinking you must control everything and accepting that Allah is in control. The night prayers, tahajjud, offer a practical opportunity to release burdens. In the deep silence of the night, when the world sleeps, you stand before Allah and pour out your heart. You acknowledge your weakness, your worries, your struggles. And in that vulnerable honesty, in that turning to the divine, something shifts. The burdens that felt crushing in the harsh light of day somehow lighten in the gentle darkness of sincere prayer. There's a dua the Prophet taught specifically for anxiety. O ever-living, O self-subsisting sustainer of all, I seek help through your mercy. In these simple words lies a profound release. You're acknowledging that you need help, that you can't do it alone, and that mercy, divine, infinite mercy, is available to you. Not because you've earned it or deserve it, but simply because Allah is the most merciful. Islamic wisdom teaches that anxiety about the future is actually a form of weak faith, because it implies you don't trust that Allah will take care of you tomorrow as He has taken care of you today. The Prophet taught his companion Ibn Abbas that with patience comes victory, with distress comes relief, and with hardship comes ease. This isn't wishful thinking but a recognition of the patterns Allah has established in creation. Difficulty doesn't last forever. Relief follows distress as surely as dawn follows darkness. What would it mean to truly internalize this teaching? To really believe in your bones that you won't be given more than you can handle, that Allah's mercy is always available, that the future is in the hands of the All-Wise? It would mean the crushing weight of anxiety could be set down, not ignored, not repressed, but genuinely released through trust. This is the gift of Islamic teaching on burden. You don't have to carry it alone. In fact, you were never meant to carry it alone. Every worry, every fear, every burden can be brought to Allah in prayer, acknowledged honestly, and then released in trust. Your job is to do what you can, with the resources you have, to the best of your ability. The outcome? That's Allah's domain, and He is the best of planners. Lao Tzu and the Tao ===. From the mist-shrouded mountains of ancient China comes a different voice, one that speaks not of divine reliance but of natural harmony, not of trust in God but of alignment with the Tao, the way of nature itself. Lao Tzu, the legendary sage who may or may not have existed as a single historical figure, left us the Tao Te Ching, a slim volume of verses that contains some of the most profound wisdom ever articulated about the art of letting go. When I let go of what I am, Lao Tzu writes, I become what I might be. In these simple words lies a revolution in how we think about burden and release. Most of our weight comes from clinging to identities, to outcomes, to control, to our ideas of how things should be. The relief comes not from acquiring more strength to carry the weight, but from releasing our grip on it entirely. The central concept in Taoist teaching about burden is Wu Wei, often translated as non-action, but more accurately understood as effortless action or action through non-action. This paradoxical phrase points to something profound about the nature of struggle and ease. Wu Wei doesn't mean doing nothing. It means acting in harmony with the natural flow of things rather than against it. It means swimming with the current rather than fighting it. It means releasing the exhausting effort to force outcomes and instead allowing things to unfold according to their nature. Lao Tzu uses water as his primary metaphor for this teaching. Water is soft, yielding, apparently weak, yet given time it cuts through the hardest rock. Water doesn't force. It flows around obstacles. It seeks the lowest place, yet nothing is more essential to life. Nothing in the world is softer than water, Lao Tzu writes. Yet nothing is better at overcoming the hard and strong. The soft overcomes the hard. The yielding overcomes the rigid. Think about what this means for the burdens you carry. You've been taught to be strong, to overcome, to push through, to force outcomes through sheer will. This is the way of hardness, of rigidity. And what happens to rigid things when pressure is applied? They break. The Taoist teaching offers a different path. Be like water. Flow around obstacles rather than ramming against them. Yield rather than resist. Let go rather than grasp. This isn't weakness. It's a different kind of strength. As Lao Tzu writes, those who are stiff and rigid are the disciples of death. Those who are soft and yielding are the disciples of life. The rigid and stiff will be broken. The soft and yielding will overcome. The weight you carry comes largely from rigidity, rigid ideas about how things should be, rigid attachment to outcomes, rigid resistance to what is. The release comes through yielding, through softening, through allowing. The Taoist concept of uncarved wood, PBUH, offers another dimension to this teaching. Before wood is carved into a specific form, it contains infinite potential. Once carved, it can only be what it has been made to be. We burden ourselves by carving ourselves into fixed identities, by trying to be what we think we should be, by limiting ourselves to the shapes others have imposed on us. Lao Tzu invites us to return to the uncarved wood, to the state of pure potential before all the shoulds and musts were layered on. What might it mean to release your carved shape? To let go of the identity you've been performing, the image you've been maintaining, the person you've been trying to be? Not to become nothing, but to return to the natural state before all that artifice was imposed. This is another weight you've been carrying. The exhausting effort to be something you're not, to maintain a persona, to live up to an image. Wu Wei teaches us something revolutionary about effort and achievement. The Tao Te Ching says, in pursuit of knowledge, every day something is acquired. In pursuit of the Tao, every day something is dropped. We've been taught that growth means adding more skills, more knowledge, more achievements, more possessions. Lao Tzu suggests that true growth might mean subtracting, letting go, becoming less rather than more. This directly addresses the weight problem. You're heavy not because you don't have enough, but because you're carrying too much, too many expectations, too many obligations, too many ideas about how you should be and what you should do. The path to lightness isn't acquiring more strength to carry all of it. It's setting down what you don't need. Less and less is done, Lao Tzu writes, until non-action is achieved. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. This seems like nonsense until you start to understand it. When you stop forcing, interfering, trying to control every outcome, things have a way of working themselves out. Not through magic, but through the natural intelligence of systems left to function without excessive manipulation. Think about your own life. How many problems have you made worse by interfering? How many situations resolve themselves once you stopped trying to force a solution? How much energy have you wasted trying to control things that would have worked out fine on their own? Wu Wei invites you to experiment with doing less, interfering less, controlling less, and observing what happens. The Taoist teaching challenges the modern cult of productivity and optimization. We've been told that every moment must be used, every capacity maximized, every potential exploited. This creates an exhausting burden, a constant pressure to be doing more, achieving more, becoming more. Lao Tzu offers a different vision. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. The seasons change without rushing. Seeds grow without forcing. Life unfolds without anxious striving. What if you could trust the natural rhythm of your own unfolding? What if you didn't have to push so hard, strive so desperately, force every outcome through sheer effort? What if you could do what needs doing and then rest, act when action is needed and be still when it's not, allow things to develop at their natural pace rather than trying to accelerate everything? Lao Tzu teaches that much of our burden comes from our desires. Not basic needs, the need for food, shelter, connection, but the endless multiplication of wants created by comparing ourselves to others, by thinking we need what we don't have, by believing we'll finally be happy when we acquire the next thing. There is no greater misfortune than discontent, he writes, and no greater calamity than being covetous. One who knows contentment will always be content. This is a weight you may not even recognize as weight. The burden of constantly wanting more, of never being satisfied with what is, of always straining towards some future state of completion. The Taoist practice of contentment isn't about settling for less or giving up on growth. It's about releasing the compulsive dissatisfaction that makes the present moment never quite enough. The Tao Te Ching contains a teaching about governance that applies equally to governing your own life. Governing a large country is like frying small fish. Too much handling and it falls apart. This speaks to the burden of overmanagement, the exhausting attempt to micromanage every detail of your life, to have a plan for every contingency, to control every variable. Sometimes the best action is minimal action. Sometimes the wisest intervention is no intervention at all. Wu Wei doesn't mean you become passive or indifferent. It means you develop sensitivity to when action is truly needed and when it would just be interference. It means you act when the action arises naturally from the situation rather than forcing it from your anxious need to be doing something. It means you trust the intelligence of natural processes rather than assuming you must control everything. Lao Tzu uses the metaphor of the valley to teach about receptivity and emptiness. The valley spirit never dies, he writes. The valley is low, empty, receptive, and because of this, it receives everything. All the water flows into it. All the life gathers there. By being empty, it becomes full. By being low, it becomes supreme. What might it mean to cultivate this kind of emptiness? To create space in your life rather than filling every moment? To be receptive rather than always driving forward? To stop resisting and start receiving? This is yet another dimension of the weight problem. You're so full of plans, worries, obligations, opinions, that there's no space for anything new to emerge. The Taoist path suggests, empty out, let go, make space. The teaching about non-contention offers another release. The sage doesn't compete, Lao Tzu writes, therefore no one can compete with him. How much of your burden comes from the constant comparison, the endless competition, the need to prove yourself better than others or at least not worse? What would it feel like to simply stop competing, to do your work without needing to measure yourself against anyone else, to walk your path without constantly checking to see if you're ahead or behind? One of the most beautiful teachings in the Tao Te Ching addresses worry directly. Care about what other people think and you will always be their prisoner. This burden, the crushing weight of other people's opinions, real or imagined, probably accounts for more suffering than any other single source. We exhaust ourselves trying to manage what others think of us, trying to avoid judgment, trying to win approval. Lao Tzu's teaching is simple and radical. Stop caring. Not because you become cruel or callous, but because you recognize that other people's opinions are not your burden to carry. The Taoist vision of the sage is someone who has released all unnecessary burdens. The master doesn't seek fulfillment. Lao Tzu writes, not seeking, not expecting, she is present, and can welcome all things. This person doesn't carry the weight of endless striving because they're not seeking anything they don't already have. They're not burdened by expectations because they don't expect things to be different from what they are. They're free because they've let go. This might sound like a recipe for stagnation, for never growing or changing. But Lao Tzu would say it's the opposite. When you stop forcing yourself to be something you're not, you can actually become who you are. When you stop chasing what you think you should want, you can discover what you actually want. When you release the weight of others' expectations, you can finally move in your own natural direction. The practice of Taoist philosophy isn't about adopting new beliefs or performing new rituals. It's about releasing control, releasing resistance, releasing the need to force outcomes, releasing the rigid ideas of how you and life should be. It's about returning to a more natural way of being, the way water flows, the way trees grow, the way seasons change. What might it feel like to move through your life like water, flowing around obstacles rather than smashing against them? To be like the uncarved wood, full of potential rather than locked into fixed forms? To practice Wu Wei, acting when action is needed but not forcing, interfering, or controlling. To embody the valley spirit, empty and receptive rather than full and grasping? These aren't abstract philosophical ideas. They're invitations to a different way of carrying yourself through the world, or rather, to not carrying so much. They point to the possibility of moving through life with less effort, less struggle, less weight. Not because you care less or try less, but because you've learned to distinguish between effort that serves and effort that exhausts, between the action that flows from harmony with the way things are and the action that comes from resistance to what is. Lao Tzu teaches that the soft overcomes the hard, the yielding overcomes the rigid, the empty becomes full. What if the weight you've been carrying could be released simply by softening, by yielding, by making space? What if the strength you've been seeking comes not from becoming harder and more forceful, but from becoming softer and more flowing? What if freedom is found not in control, but in release? Stoic philosophy on control ===. From the philosophical schools of ancient Greece and Rome comes yet another path to releasing the weight of burden, one grounded not in divine trust or natural harmony, but in rigorous clarity about what you can and cannot control. The Stoics, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius Seneca, developed a practical philosophy for living well in a world you don't control, a philosophy that speaks with startling relevance to our modern crisis of burden. At the heart of Stoic teaching is what Epictetus called the dichotomy of control. This principle is so simple a child can understand it, yet so profound that fully embodying it transforms your entire experience of life. Epictetus puts it this way: some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Not within our power are our body, our property, reputation, office, and, in a word, whatever is not of our own doing. Read that again slowly. Everything in your life falls into one of two categories: things you can control and things you can't. The things you can control are few: your thoughts, your responses, your choices, your efforts. Everything else, the weather, other people's opinions, the outcome of events, your health, the economy, the past, the future, all of it is outside your control. According to the Stoics, all of your suffering, all of your burden, comes from confusing these two categories. You suffer when you try to control what you can't control. You exhaust yourself trying to make people like you, which is impossible because their opinions are not in your power. You torment yourself over past mistakes, which is pointless because the past cannot be changed. You anxiously plan for every possible future, which is futile because the future is not yet real and mostly won't unfold as you imagine anyway. Epictetus taught that freedom, genuine freedom, comes from a simple practice: make your will God's will, and you will be free. In Stoic terms, this means aligning your will with what actually is, rather than wasting energy wishing things were different. If it rains on your outdoor event, you can't change that it's raining. But you can control how you respond, with frustration or with flexibility, with resistance or with acceptance. The weight you carry is largely composed of resistance to what is. You carry the burden of thinking things should be different from how they are. You carry the weight of believing you should be further along, more successful, less anxious, different somehow. You carry the burden of wishing other people would behave differently, that the world would work differently, that your circumstances would be different. Marcus Aurelius, who served as Roman emperor and kept a journal of Stoic reflections that we now call the Meditations, wrote extensively about this. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Read that carefully. The pain isn't in the thing. It's in your judgment about the thing. And your judgment is within your control. This doesn't mean you can think your way out of genuine pain or grief. It means that much of what you suffer comes not from what happens but from your thoughts about what happens. Someone cuts you off in traffic. That's an external event you can't control. But your thoughts, how dare they? What a terrible person. They could have caused an accident. And your emotional reaction, rage, indignation, stress, those are within your control. They're additions you've made to a neutral event. The Stoic practice, then, is to constantly sort your experiences into these two categories. Is this within my control or not? Can I change this or can't I? Is this my business or isn't it? And once you've made that determination, act accordingly. For what's in your control, give it your full attention and effort. For what's not in your control, practice acceptance. Epictetus used vivid examples to illustrate this. Remember that you are an actor in a play, which is as the playwright wants it. If short, then short. If long, then long. If he wants you to act as a beggar, see that you act even this convincingly. And so for a cripple, a magistrate, or a private person. For this is your business, to act well the given part. But to choose it belongs to another. This might sound fatalistic, but it's actually liberating. You didn't choose many of your circumstances, where you were born, your genetics, your family, many of the opportunities or obstacles you faced. These were given to you. What's within your control is how you play the role you've been given. You can play it with excellence or with resentment, with grace or with bitterness, with attention to your character or with attention only to results. Marcus Aurelius, despite being one of the most powerful men in the world, understood profoundly that he controlled very little. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The Emperor of Rome, with armies at his command and the wealth of nations at his disposal, recognized that his true power lay only in how he directed his own mind. Think about the implications for your own life. You don't control whether you get the promotion, but you control the quality of your work and your integrity in doing it. You don't control whether someone loves you, but you control whether you act in lovable ways. You don't control the outcome of your efforts, but you control the efforts themselves. This is how the Stoics resolve the burden problem. You release the crushing weight of trying to control outcomes and focus instead on your inputs. You stop carrying responsibility for things that aren't your responsibility. You recognize that much of what worries you is not actually your business to worry about. Seneca, the Roman Stoic philosopher and playwright, addressed worry directly. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. How much of your burden consists of things that haven't happened and likely never will? How much mental energy do you spend on catastrophic scenarios that exist only in your imagination? The Stoic practice is to stay with what is actually happening, not with the terrible things that might happen. The Stoics also taught something radical about external goods, health, wealth, reputation, relationships. These are what they called preferred indifference. Yes, it's natural and reasonable to prefer health to sickness, wealth to poverty, good reputation to bad. But these external goods don't make you happy or unhappy in themselves. Only your virtue, only your character, only how you think and choose and act, only these determine your well-being. This completely inverts the usual way of thinking about burden. You think you're burdened by lack of money, by health problems, by difficult relationships, by unfair circumstances. The Stoics would say, those circumstances are not the burden. The burden is your judgment that you need things to be different to be okay. The burden is your belief that your happiness depends on external conditions that you don't control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. This sounds pessimistic until you understand what he's doing. He's managing his expectations. He's reminding himself that other people's behavior is not in his control and preparing himself to respond with wisdom rather than shock when they behave badly. How much of your burden comes from unrealistic expectations? You expect life to be fair, but it isn't. You expect people to behave reasonably, but they don't. You expect your efforts to be rewarded, but sometimes they aren't. The Stoics don't say this to be cynical, but to be realistic. When you expect what's likely rather than what you wish for, you're not crushed by disappointment. Epictetus taught his students a powerful practice: premeditation of adversity, or premeditatio malorum. You spend time imagining what could go wrong, not to cultivate anxiety, but to prepare yourself emotionally. You imagine losing your job, your health, your loved ones, not morbidly, but realistically. Everything you have can be taken away. Everyone you love will eventually die, or you will die first. Your body will age and fail. This practice sounds disturbing, but it has a remarkable effect. It generates gratitude for what you have while it lasts, and it prepares you to face loss without being destroyed by it. You stop taking things for granted. You stop carrying the burden of thinking that life owes you anything or that you can make things permanent through control. The Stoic attitude toward death is particularly relevant here. Marcus Aurelius meditated frequently on mortality. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This isn't morbid. It's focusing. When you remember that your time is limited, that this could be your last day, you stop wasting energy on petty concerns. You stop carrying burdens that won't matter when you're facing death. Epictetus taught another crucial practice: the reserve clause. When you act, when you plan, when you work toward something, always add the mental clause, if the gods will it, or in modern terms, if circumstances allow. You do your best to achieve the goal, but you hold the outcome lightly. This prevents the crushing disappointment when things don't work out as planned. I want to get this job, if that's what's best for me. I want this relationship to work, if that's how things unfold. I want to be healthy, if that's possible. You still try, you still care, you still make effort. But you're not rigidly attached to a specific outcome. You're willing to accept what actually happens rather than breaking yourself against what you wish would happen. The Stoics recognized that much suffering comes from our narratives about events. Something happens neutral in itself. Then you tell yourself a story about what it means, why it happened, what it says about you, what terrible consequences will follow. That story, that interpretation, is where the suffering lives. And it's completely within your control. Marcus Aurelius: choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. This isn't denying that bad things happen. It's recognizing that the badness is partly in your interpretation. Someone insults you, that's an external event you don't control. But whether you feel insulted, whether you let it disturb your peace, whether you retaliate or let it go, all of that is within your control. The Stoic path to releasing burden is through rigorous honesty about control. Stop trying to control what you can't control. Stop carrying responsibility for outcomes beyond your power to determine. Stop burdening yourself with other people's opinions, with unchangeable pasts, with imaginary futures. Focus your precious energy on the one thing you can control: your own thoughts, choices, and responses in this present moment. This practice doesn't come naturally or easily. It requires constant vigilance, continuous sorting of experiences into the two categories. But as you practice it, something remarkable happens. The weight starts to lift, not because your circumstances necessarily improve, but because you stop adding unnecessary burden to whatever circumstances you face. You still work, still love, still strive, still care deeply. But you do it all with less attachment to outcomes, less rigid expectation, less desperate need for things to be different from how they are. You carry your responsibilities with attention and integrity, but you don't carry the crushing weight of trying to control the uncontrollable. The Stoics understood something profound. Most of your burden isn't real. It's imaginary weight, stories you're telling yourself, judgments you're making, attempts to control what can't be controlled. And all of it, can be set down simply by recognizing what is and isn't within your power. The common thread equals. Three traditions, arising from vastly different cultures and times. Islam from the Arabian desert, teaching trust in divine wisdom. Taoism from ancient China, teaching harmony with nature's way. Stoicism from Greece and Rome, teaching clarity about control. On the surface, they seem quite different, but look deeper and you find they're teaching the same essential truth from different angles. All three traditions recognize that human beings naturally create unnecessary burden for themselves. We don't just face the actual challenges of existence. We multiply them through worry, through resistance, through attempts to control what we cannot control, through unrealistic expectations, through attachment to outcomes. The weight you feel isn't usually the weight of what's actually happening. It's the weight of your thoughts about what's happening. Islamic teaching says, most of your burden comes from trying to carry what belongs to Allah. The outcomes, the future, the results of your efforts, these are in Allah's hands. Your job is to do your part and then trust, to make effort and then release, to strive and then surrender. This isn't passivity. It's wisdom about where your responsibility ends and divine will begins. Taoist teaching says, most of your burden comes from resisting the natural flow of things. You exhaust yourself trying to force outcomes, trying to make things happen according to your will rather than allowing them to unfold according to their nature. You burden yourself by clinging to fixed forms rather than remaining flexible and responsive like water. Stoic teaching says, most of your burden comes from confusing what you can control with what you can't. You waste precious energy trying to control other people, external events, outcomes beyond your power to determine. This creates frustration, disappointment, and exhaustion. Freedom comes from focusing solely on what's within your power. Different languages, different frameworks, same essential insight. Let go of what isn't yours to carry. All three traditions teach the practice of acceptance, not passive resignation, but active recognition of reality as it is. In Islam, this is submission to Qadar, accepting that what Allah has decreed will happen and that His decree is wise. In Taoism, this is harmony with the Tao, accepting the natural unfolding of things. In Stoicism, this is a more fatty love of fate, accepting what happens because it has happened and cannot be otherwise. This acceptance doesn't mean you don't work for change. It doesn't mean you become passive or indifferent. It means you stop fighting with reality, stop insisting that things should be different from how they are. You work with what is, not against it. You flow around obstacles rather than exhausting yourself ramming against them. All three traditions recognize the central importance of the present moment. Islamic teaching emphasizes that anxiety about the future shows weak trust in Allah's provision. The Prophet taught to focus on today, to live in day-tight compartments rather than borrowing trouble from tomorrow. Taoist teaching is all about being present with what is, moving with the flow of now rather than resisting in favor of some imagined better future. Stoic teaching constantly pulls attention back to this moment, this choice, this action, the only thing you actually control. Your burden multiplies when you leave the present moment. You carry the weight of regret about the past, though the past cannot be changed. You carry the weight of anxiety about the future, though the future hasn't happened and mostly won't unfold as you imagine. All of this weight dissolves when you come back to now. What's actually happening in this moment? What's actually required of you right now? All three traditions teach that attachment is the root of suffering. Islamic teaching warns against attachment to dunya, the temporary world, teaching that security comes from attachment to Allah alone. Taoist teaching emphasizes non-clinging, flowing with change rather than grasping at impermanence. Stoic teaching says to hold all external goods lightly, recognizing that they can be taken away and that your well-being doesn't depend on them. This doesn't mean you don't love people, don't care about your work, don't pursue goals. It means you don't make your peace contingent on keeping what you have. You enjoy what's present while it's present, knowing it won't last forever. You work toward goals without being destroyed if you don't achieve them. You love deeply while accepting that everyone you love is mortal. All three traditions point to a paradox. You gain freedom by accepting limitation. Islamic teaching says freedom comes through submission to Allah, through accepting that you're not God and don't control everything. Taoist teaching says freedom comes through yielding, through accepting that you can't force the river to flow backwards. Stoic teaching says freedom comes through recognizing the small circle of what you actually control and staying within it. This is counterintuitive. You think freedom means unlimited options, the ability to do whatever you want, control over circumstances. But that kind of freedom is impossible, and pursuing it makes you a slave, to desire, to anxiety, to the endless attempt to control the uncontrollable. Real freedom, all three traditions teach, comes from accepting reality, from working within the constraints of what's actually possible, from releasing the burden of what's not yours to carry. All three traditions recognize the value of simplicity. Islamic teaching warns against the burden of excess, teaching moderation and contentment with little. Taoist teaching celebrates the uncarved wood, the simple and natural over the complex and artificial. Stoic teaching emphasizes that you need very little to be happy, virtue, nothing more. Your life becomes heavy when you accumulate too much. Too many possessions, too many obligations, too many desires, too many identities to maintain. The path to lightness is subtraction, not addition. Less, not more. Simpler, not more complex. The question isn't what else do I need, but what can I release? All three traditions teach that much of wisdom consists of discernment, knowing the difference between what matters and what doesn't, what's yours to carry and what's not, what you can change and what you must accept. Islamic teaching emphasizes the importance of knowledge and understanding in navigating life. Taoist teaching is all about sensitivity to the natural patterns of things, knowing when to act and when to refrain. Stoic teaching prioritizes the ability to correctly distinguish what's in your control from what isn't. This discernment doesn't come automatically. It requires practice, attention, reflection. You have to keep sorting your experiences, keep asking, is this mine to carry? Can I actually change this? Is this within my power? Without this sorting, you carry everything indiscriminately, which means you carry an impossible load. All three traditions point to the transformation that comes through practice. Islamic teaching provides daily prayers, regular fasting, practices of remembrance that cultivate tawakkul. Taoist teaching emerges from meditation and cultivated simplicity, from constant attention to the flow of the Tao. Stoic teaching recommends daily reflection, journaling, meditation on mortality, constant questioning of impressions. You can't just understand these teachings intellectually and expect to be transformed. The understanding has to become embodied through practice, repeated over time until new habits of mind form. It's like learning to play an instrument. You don't read a book about it. You practice daily until the skill becomes natural. And here's what all three traditions promise. When you practice releasing burden, when you learn to distinguish what's yours to carry from what's not, when you accept reality rather than fighting it, when you focus on the present rather than borrowing trouble from past and future, when you hold things lightly rather than grasping desperately, then something shifts. The weight lifts, not because your circumstances necessarily change, but because you've stopped adding unnecessary burden to whatever circumstances you face. You discover that you're stronger than you thought, not because you can carry more, but because you need to carry less. You find that you have energy for what actually matters because you're not wasting it on what doesn't. You experience moments of genuine lightness, even in the midst of difficulty, because you've learned the art of release. This is the gift these ancient traditions offer to our modern burden crisis. A path out, not through acquiring more strength to carry more weight, but through the wisdom to set down what was never yours to carry in the first place. Practical application equals. So how do you actually do this? How do you take these ancient teachings and apply them to your modern life with its bills and deadlines and relationships and responsibilities? How do you practice letting go when everything in your culture tells you to hold on tighter, push harder, control more? It starts with a simple practice that all three traditions recommend. Taking time each day, preferably morning and evening, to consciously sort your experiences. Get a journal or simply sit quietly and ask yourself, what am I carrying right now? Make a list. Be honest. Include everything, the obvious burdens and the subtle ones you barely notice anymore. Then go through the list with these questions. Is this within my control? If not, can I practice acceptance? Is this mine to carry? Or am I carrying it for someone else? Does this serve any useful purpose? Or is it just worry? Is this about the present moment? Or am I borrowing trouble from the future or carrying regret from the past? As you sort through your burdens, you'll likely find that many of them fall into familiar categories. There are the burdens that come from trying to control other people's opinions, thoughts, or choices. You can't control whether your parent approves of your career choice, whether your friend forgives you, whether your colleague likes you. What you can control is your own integrity, your own efforts to be kind and responsible, your own character. Practice. When you notice yourself worrying about what someone thinks of you, pause. Recognize that their thoughts are not in your control. Then redirect your attention to what is in your control. Are you acting with integrity? Are you doing your best? That's all you can do. The rest isn't your burden to carry. There are burdens from the past, things you regret, wish you'd done differently, can't let go of. The Stoics would tell you the past is completely outside your control. It's done. Cannot be changed. The only question is what you do now. Islamic teaching would add, whatever happened was decreed by Allah and contains wisdom you may not see. Ask forgiveness if needed, make amends where possible, learn the lesson, and then release it. Practice. When regret comes up, acknowledge it. Yes, I wish I'd done that differently. Then add, but I cannot change the past. What I can do is act differently now. Then return to the present moment. There are burdens about the future, anxiety about what might happen, catastrophic scenarios that play out in your mind, elaborate plans to control outcomes that haven't occurred yet. All three traditions teach, the future doesn't exist yet. It's not real. You're suffering over something imaginary. Yes, plan. Yes, prepare. But then release the outcome. Practice. When you notice future anxiety, ask yourself, what's actually happening right now? Right now, in this present moment, am I okay? Usually you are. The problem exists only in your imagination of the future. Return to now. What's the next right action? Just that. Not the whole future, just the next step. There are burdens that come from comparison. Measuring yourself against others, feeling inadequate or superior, trapped in the endless competition. Taoist teaching would say, stop competing. Just walk your own path. Stoic teaching would add, the only meaningful comparison is with your past self. Are you becoming better than you were? Islamic teaching reminds you, everyone has their own test, their own journey, their own relationship with Allah. Practice. When you notice comparison, acknowledge it without judgment. I'm comparing myself again. Then consciously redirect. My only responsibility is to be the best version of myself I can be today. Others' paths are not my business. There are burdens from saying yes when you should say no, from taking on responsibilities that aren't yours, from trying to help everyone with everything. This is tricky because caring for others is genuinely important. But there's a difference between genuine responsibility and enabling, between helping and rescuing, between your part and someone else's part. Practice. Before saying yes to any request, pause. Ask yourself, is this mine to do? Is this the best use of my limited time and energy? Am I saying yes from genuine care or from guilt, fear of disappointing others, or inability to set boundaries? It's okay to say no. In fact, saying no to what isn't yours makes space to say yes to what is. Create a morning practice that combines elements from all three traditions. Upon waking, before checking your phone or engaging with the world's demands, take a few minutes for this. Begin with intention, Islamic element, O Allah. This day is a gift from you. Guide me to carry only what's mine to carry and to release the rest. Practice presence. Taoist element, take several deep breaths. Feel your body. Notice the present moment without judgment. Let your mind become still like water. Sort your concerns. Stoic element, what will I likely face today? What's within my control? What's not? For what's in my control, I'll do my best. For what's not, I'll practice acceptance. Then move into your day with this clarity. Throughout the day, when you notice burden accumulating, pause, breathe, ask, is this mine to carry? Is it within my control? Is this about now or about an imaginary future? Then release what's not yours and return to the present. Create an evening practice for release. Before sleep, review your day not with judgment but with honesty. What burdens did I carry today that weren't mine? What did I try to control that I couldn't control? What can I release now before sleep? Islamic tradition recommends specific evening remembrances, short prayers that acknowledge Allah as the guardian while you sleep. Taoist practice would add, reflect on how you flowed with the day or fought against it. Where did you practice Wu Wei? Where did you force? Stoic practice includes reviewing the day's events and your responses. Did I respond with wisdom or get caught in reactive emotion? What can I do better tomorrow? Then consciously release everything. You've done what you can do. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Right now, in this moment, you can let it all go and rest. Develop a practice of questioning your shoulds. Much of your burden comes from unconscious rules about how you or life should be. I should be further along by now. They should be more considerate. Life should be easier. Every time you hear yourself think should, pause. Says who? Is this your own deeply held value or something you absorbed from culture, family, or comparison? Practice. Keep a should list for a week. Every time you notice yourself thinking something should be different, write it down. At the end of the week, review it. How many of these shoulds are genuinely serving you? How many are just creating burden? Which can you release? Cultivate a practice of gratitude for what is, rather than resentment for what isn't. This doesn't mean you don't work for change or improvement. It means you acknowledge what's actually present rather than focusing only on what's missing. This practice appears in all three traditions: Islamic gratitude for Allah's blessings, Taoist appreciation for the natural way things are, Stoic recognition that you already have what you need for a good life. Practice. Each evening, name 3 things that were present in your day that you're grateful for. Not necessarily big things, the warmth of sunlight, a moment of laughter, food that satisfied. This slowly retrains your attention from lack to abundance, from what you don't have to what you do. Let's make this more specific. Don't just think grateful thoughts. Write them down or speak them aloud. Today I'm grateful for the first sip of morning coffee that tasted rich and warm, the way my colleagues smiled when I said hello, the softness of my pillow when I got home exhausted. The specificity matters. Not just, I'm grateful for my family, but I'm grateful for the way my daughter laughed at dinner, or I'm grateful that my partner remembered to buy the bread I like. This practice works because it trains your brain to look for what's present rather than what's missing. Your brain is wired for survival, which means it's constantly scanning for threats and problems. What's wrong, what's missing, what could go wrong. Gratitude practice deliberately redirects that attention toward what's working, what's sufficient, what's actually here. Over time, this doesn't just make you feel better. It actually changes your baseline perception of life from scarcity to sufficiency. Create physical rituals of release. The mind and body are connected. Sometimes physical action helps mental release. Write your burdens on paper and burn them, safely, in a fireplace or metal container. As you watch the smoke rise, imagine those worries dissolving, returning to air. Hold stones representing different worries and then throw them into a body of water, feeling the weight leave your hand. Take a shower while consciously imagining the water washing burdens away, visualizing the stress flowing down the drain. These may seem merely symbolic, but symbols affect the unconscious mind. Here's a specific ritual you might try. Before sleep, take a moment to physically brush off your body, as if you're brushing away dust. Start with your head and work down to your feet, using light sweeping motions with your hands. As you do this, name what you're releasing. I brush off the worry about tomorrow's meeting. I brush off the frustration from today's traffic. I brush off the burden of that difficult conversation. Sounds simple, maybe even silly, But the combination of physical action, conscious intention, and naming the burdens creates a powerful release. Or try this. Get a small bowl or cup and fill it with water. Stir the water gently and imagine it absorbing your worries as you speak them aloud or think them clearly. Then pour the water out, preferably outside onto the earth, watching your burdens flow away. Rinse the container. This simple act, done with intention, can create a psychological marker of release. Practice simplification. Look at your life, your schedule, your possessions, your commitments, your goals, and ask, what here is excess? What's weighing me down without serving any real purpose? Then begin removing it. Cancel subscriptions you don't use. Donate possessions you don't need. Say no to obligations that drain without nourishing. Simplify your goals to what actually matters most. This might sound like a lot of practices, but start small. Pick one that resonates and commit to it for a month. Just one morning question. Is this mine to carry? Just one evening release. I did what I could. Now I rest. That's enough to begin. The key is consistency, not perfection. You'll forget. You'll get caught up in burden again. That's normal. That's human. When you notice, don't beat yourself up. That's just another burden. Simply return to the practice. Return to the question, what's mine to carry? Return to the present moment. Return to release. Over time, with patient practice, you'll find it becomes more natural. You'll catch yourself earlier when you're carrying what's not yours. You'll find it easier to release, to let go, to accept. The heavy feeling that's been your constant companion will start to lift. Not because your circumstances necessarily changed, but because you've learned the art of carrying only what's actually yours. The liberation equals. What happens when you actually do this? When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, when you release burdens that aren't yours, when you accept what is rather than fighting for what should be. What does liberation from unnecessary burden actually feel like? First, there's the physical release. You might not have realized how much tension you've been holding in your body, how tight your shoulders have been, how shallow you're breathing. When you release mental burden, the body responds. Your shoulders drop, your jaw unclenches, your breath deepens. You might feel tingles, warmth, or other sensations as chronically tense muscles finally relax. One person described it as feeling like I'd been wearing a heavy coat for years and suddenly took it off. I didn't realize how heavy it was until I wasn't carrying it anymore. Another said, I could breathe again. I didn't know I'd been holding my breath. There's an emotional lightness that comes with release. The constant background anxiety that's been humming under everything quiets. Not that you become carefree or stop caring about things, you still care deeply. But there's less heaviness, less dread, less of that crushing feeling that everything depends on you and you might fail at any moment. You might find yourself laughing more easily, feeling spontaneous joy at small things, experiencing moments of simple contentment that have been absent for years. A sunset becomes beautiful again instead of just background scenery as you rush from one obligation to another. A conversation becomes enjoyable instead of something to get through while your mind churns with worries. There's clarity that comes with letting go of what you can't control. When you stop wasting energy on unchangeable pasts and imaginary futures, when you stop trying to control other people and external events, suddenly you have so much more energy and attention for what's actually in front of you. Your thinking becomes clearer. Your decisions become easier. You're more present, more focused, more effective. People often report that they actually get more done after learning to let go. This seems paradoxical. Shouldn't caring less and trying less lead to achieving less? But it doesn't work that way. When you're not scattered across 1,000 concerns, when you're not exhausted from carrying what isn't yours, when you're not paralyzed by anxiety about outcomes, you can pour your full attention and energy into what's actually yours to do. There's a peace that settles in, not the peace of having everything go your way, but something deeper, the peace of acceptance. You're okay with things being as they are. Not that you don't work for change, not that you don't have preferences, but you're not at war with reality anymore. You're not insisting that life should be different from how it is. This acceptance creates a profound inner stability that external circumstances can't shake. Marcus Aurelius described it as an inner citadel, a place of peace inside yourself that remains untroubled no matter what chaos unfolds around you. Not because you don't care, but because you know what's in your control and what isn't, and you've made peace with that distinction. There's freedom in recognizing that you're not responsible for everything. The weight of thinking you have to fix every problem, help every person, control every outcome. When that lifts, you discover a lightness you may not have felt since childhood. You can be present with others without needing to fix them. You can face challenges without being crushed by them. You can make mistakes without being destroyed by them. This freedom paradoxically makes you more responsible, not less. When you're not burdened by false responsibilities, you can attend properly to genuine ones. When you're not exhausted from carrying what isn't yours, you have strength for what is. When you're not scattered across everything, you can focus on what truly matters. There's a deepening of relationships that often comes with release. When you stop trying to control others, when you stop carrying responsibility for their choices and emotions, when you accept them as they are rather than as you wish they'd be, something shifts. You can love more freely because you're not burdened by expectations. You can be present because you're not trying to manage or fix. You can connect authentically because you're not performing or manipulating. People who practice these teachings often report that their relationships improve, not because the other people changed, but because they stopped approaching relationships as burdens to manage and started experiencing them as connections to enjoy. There's humility that comes with recognizing the limits of your control. You realize you're not as powerful as you thought. You can't control outcomes, can't make people do what you want, can't force the future to unfold according to your plan. This might sound depressing, but it's actually liberating. You can stop pretending to be in control and instead focus on being faithful, being kind, being present, being yourself. This humility also generates compassion. When you recognize how little you control, how much you're at the mercy of circumstances and genetics and the actions of others, you develop more empathy for everyone else in the same boat. You judge less because you understand more. There's resilience that develops through practiced release. Life will still bring difficulty. You'll still face loss, failure, disappointment, pain. But these experiences won't crush you like they once might have because you've learned not to add unnecessary suffering to necessary pain. You face what comes without the extra burden of resistance, of insisting it shouldn't be happening, of drowning in catastrophic thinking about what it means. You become like bamboo in a storm, flexible, bending but not breaking. Or like water, which flows around obstacles without being stopped by them. Or like the Stoic sage, maintaining inner peace while the external world churns with chaos. This isn't because you're numb or indifferent, but because you've learned to distinguish between pain, which is inevitable, and suffering, which is optional. There's often a spiritual deepening, regardless of whether you're religious. When you practice releasing control, accepting what is, trusting in something beyond yourself, whether you call it Allah, the Tao, fate, or simply the unfolding of life, you touch something transcendent. You recognize that you're part of something much larger than yourself, and this recognition brings both humility and peace. For those who are religious, these practices deepen faith. Islamic believers report feeling closer to Allah through tawakkul, experiencing His mercy and wisdom more directly when they stop trying to be God themselves. For those who aren't religious, these practices can still connect them to something, the natural wisdom of the universe, the flow of life, the mystery of existence. There's joy that returns, not necessarily constant happiness, but a capacity for joy that may have been buried under burden. When you're not always worried, not always striving, not always carrying the weight of the world, you can notice beauty again. You can experience pleasure without guilt. You can rest without anxiety. You can simply be without always having to become something else. Children have this naturally, the ability to be fully present, to delight in small things, to play without purpose, to rest without productivity. We lose it as we accumulate burden. These practices can restore it, not by making you childish, but by recovering the childlike capacity for wonder and presence that adults often lose. People who have practiced these teachings consistently, who have made releasing burden a way of life rather than just an idea they understand, report a quality they struggle to name. It's lightness without irresponsibility. It's peace without passivity. It's freedom within limitation. the strength through surrender. It's a paradoxical way of being that you can't fully understand until you experience it. One practitioner described it this way: I'm still me. I still care about things, work hard, have goals, face difficulties, but I'm carrying it all differently now. It's like, imagine you've been carrying a heavy backpack and someone shows you that half the rocks in it aren't yours and you can set them down. You're still carrying a backpack, but it's so much lighter that it doesn't even feel like burden anymore. It just feels like life. This is what the ancient teachers were pointing toward. Not a life without responsibility, difficulty, or challenges. Not magical thinking that makes problems disappear, but a fundamentally different relationship with life itself. One where you carry what's yours to carry with attention and care, and release what's not yours with wisdom and peace. The liberation isn't found in changing your circumstances, though circumstances may change. It's not found in achieving certain goals, though you may achieve them. It's found in the shift of understanding, the practice of discernment, the cultivation of release. Is found in the moment when you realize, I don't have to carry this. This was never mine. And you set it down. That moment, that glorious, weightless moment of release, is available to you now. Not tomorrow, not when circumstances finally align, not after you've accomplished one more thing. Now, this moment, with this breath, you can begin to let go. Sleep scenario. The release equals. And now, let this understanding settle into your body as you prepare for sleep. You've carried enough for today. Whatever burdens you've been holding, whatever weight has been pressing on your shoulders and chest, whatever worries have been churning in your mind, you can set them down now. Not forever, not as a denial of responsibility, but as a natural rhythm of release that allows for rest. Take a deep breath in through your nose, feeling your lungs expand. Hold it gently for a moment, then let it go through your mouth with a soft sigh. As the breath leaves, imagine releasing just a tiny bit of the weight you've been carrying. Not all of it, not dramatically, just a subtle lightening, like setting down a heavy bag after carrying it all day. Breathe again, in through the nose, filling your belly, your chest, your lungs. Hold, and release with that same soft sigh, letting go of just a little more. You might notice your shoulders dropping slightly, your jaw unclenching, your body beginning to recognize that it's safe to let go now. Bring your attention to your forehead, to the space between your eyebrows where worry often gathers. You might notice tension there, tightness, a sense of holding. Breathe into that space, and as you exhale, let the muscles of your forehead smooth and soften. All the concerns about the future that you've been holding in your face, all the problems you've been trying to solve in your mind, for these next hours of sleep, they're not yours to carry. The worries will still be there tomorrow if you need them, but right now, in this moment, you're releasing them. You're acknowledging that thinking about them as you fall asleep won't solve them. Worrying about them won't change them. Carrying their weight into your dreams won't help anything. So you're making a conscious choice. For these hours of rest, I let go. Bring your attention to your jaw, where we often hold the burden of words unsaid, conversations we replay, things we wish we'd said differently. Notice any tightness there. Breathe into your jaw, and as you exhale, let it go slack. Let your teeth part slightly. Let your tongue rest soft in your mouth. Release the weight of every conversation, every word, every communication burden. It's not yours to carry into sleep. Notice your neck and shoulders, those faithful servants that have been holding up the weight of the world all day. Feel the tension there, the tightness, the burden made physical. Breathe into your shoulders, and as you exhale, imagine them dropping, softening, releasing. All the responsibilities you've been shouldering, all the burdens you've been carrying, you can set them down now. You are not Atlas. You were never meant to hold up the sky. The universe will continue without your vigilant maintenance during these hours of sleep. The people you care about will be okay while you rest. The problems you face will wait for you. Right now, in this moment, you can simply be a body breathing, a consciousness resting, without having to carry anything at all. Feel your chest, your heart space where we carry emotional burdens. All the care and concern for others, all the love mixed with worry, all the weight of empathy and responsibility for people you love. Breathe into your heart. And as you exhale, imagine creating space there, releasing the heaviness. You can love without burden. You can care without carrying. Your love for others doesn't require you to be anxious about them as you sleep. Trust that they are on their own journeys, carrying what's theirs to carry, learning what they need to learn. Your worry doesn't protect them. Your anxiety doesn't help them. The most loving thing you can do is take care of yourself, rest well, and be present tomorrow, not exhausted from carrying what was never yours. Bring your attention to your belly, where we often hold the burden of control, the anxiety about outcomes, the fear of things not going as planned. Notice any tension there, any tightness. Breathe deeply into your belly, letting it rise and fall naturally. And as you exhale, release the need to control. Release the burden of thinking everything depends on you. Release the weight of trying to orchestrate outcomes you have no power to determine. What will happen will happen. Your job is to do your part, and you've done it. Whatever you accomplished today, it was enough. Whatever you didn't accomplish, it can wait. You don't have to control the future from your bed. You don't have to solve every problem before you sleep. You can trust Allah, trust the Tao, trust the unfolding of things. Trust that the universe has its own wisdom that doesn't require your constant management. Feel your back, which bears so much without complaint. All along your spine, from your neck to your tailbone, notice where you're holding tension. Breathe into each part of your back, and as you exhale, let the muscles soften, release, let go. Your back has been supporting you all day. Can rest now. You can rest now. Notice your lower back, where we often hold the burden of financial worry, security concerns, survival anxiety. Breathe into that space and release it. You're safe right now in this moment. You have a place to lie down. You're warm enough, cool enough. Your basic needs are met in this moment. Tomorrow will take care of itself. For now, you're safe and you can rest. Bring your attention to your hips and pelvis, where we sometimes hold the burden of shame, guilt, regret about the past. All the things you wish you'd done differently, all the mistakes you've made, all the ways you think you've failed, breathe into your hips. And as you exhale, let it all go. The past cannot be changed. Whatever happened has already happened. Carrying guilt about it into your sleep serves no purpose. If you've harmed someone, you can make amends tomorrow. If you've made a mistake, you can learn from it tomorrow. If you've failed, you can try again tomorrow. But right now, in this moment, you can release the burden of the past. You can forgive yourself. You can acknowledge that you did your best with what you knew and who you were at the time. And you can rest. Notice your legs and feet, which have carried you through this day, which will carry you through tomorrow. Feel any tension in your thighs, your calves, your feet. Breathe into each part and let it soften. Your legs have done their work. They can rest now. You don't have to go anywhere, do anything, move toward any goal. Right now, you can simply be still. Imagine roots growing from the soles of your feet, down through the bed, through the floor, deep into the earth. These roots are collecting every burden you've been carrying, every weight you've been holding, drawing it down and out of your body. The earth can hold it. The earth is strong enough. You don't have to carry it through the night. Feel the weight draining from your body, flowing down through these imaginary roots into the vast holding capacity of the earth. All your worries, all your concerns, all your responsibilities, all your burdens. Let them flow down, out, away. Not gone forever, just set aside for these hours of rest. Now bring your attention to your whole body at once, lying here in this comfortable position. Notice how much lighter you feel already. Notice how your breathing has deepened and slowed. Notice how your muscles have softened. This is your natural state, relaxed, at ease, without burden. You can return to this state because it's who you are underneath all the weight you've been carrying. Imagine yourself as water, flowing around obstacles rather than crashing against them. Soft, yielding, yet unstoppable in its gentle persistence. You don't have to be hard to be strong. You don't have to carry everything to be responsible. You can flow, adapt, yield, release. Imagine yourself held in the hands of the divine, supported by something vast and wise and loving. Whether you call it Allah, the Tao, the universe, or simply life itself, Imagine being held, supported, carried. You don't have to hold yourself up. You don't have to figure everything out. You don't have to be in control. You can rest in the wisdom of something greater than yourself. Imagine yourself as a bird at the end of the day, returning to its nest. All the flying is done. All the searching for food is complete. Now there's just the soft nest, the settling in, the folding of wings. You've done your flying for today. You can rest your wings now. With each breath, you're releasing more. With each exhale, you're letting go. It's not effort. It's relief. It's not loss. It's liberation. You're not abandoning your responsibilities. You're trusting that rest will make you better able to meet them tomorrow. Feel how light you're becoming. Feel how the weight you've been carrying is lifting, dissolving, flowing away. You might feel tingles, warmth, a sense of spaciousness in your body. You might feel emotion rising. That's okay. Sometimes release brings tears, and that's just more weight leaving your body. Let it flow. Notice your mind becoming quieter. The constant churning of thoughts is slowing. The worries that were so loud are fading to a murmur. You don't have to solve anything right now. You don't have to figure anything out. You don't have to plan or prepare or protect. You can simply be here, breathing, resting, releasing. If a thought arises, and thoughts will arise, you don't have to fight it or grab onto it. Just notice it, acknowledge it, and let it pass like a cloud across the sky. Your mind is the sky, vast and spacious. Thoughts are just weather passing through. They come and they go. You don't have to hold on to any of them. If a worry arises, you can say to it gently, "Not now. I'll attend to you tomorrow if you're still important. But right now, I'm resting." And let it go. If it comes back, same response, "Not now. Tomorrow." As many times as needed, with gentleness and patience, releasing without resistance. Feel yourself sinking deeper into rest. Your body is so heavy now, so relaxed, so at ease. It's like melting, like dissolving, like becoming liquid. All the hard edges of tension are softening. All the tight holding is releasing. You're becoming flowing water, soft earth, open sky. There's nothing left to do, nothing left to prove, nothing left to carry. For these hours, you're simply here, breathing, being, resting. You've done enough. You are enough. And you can let everything else go. The weight you were never meant to carry. It's gone now, released, set down. Maybe it will try to return tomorrow. Maybe you'll pick some of it up again out of habit. But for now, in this moment, you're free. You're light. You're at peace. And in this lightness, in this release, in this profound letting go, sleep is coming. Natural, restorative, healing sleep. You can feel it approaching like a gentle tide, soft and irresistible. You don't have to try to sleep. Sleep is coming on its own, drawn by your relaxation, by your release, by your willingness to finally let go. Let the darkness behind your closed eyes deepen. Let your breathing slow to its natural rhythm. Let your body become utterly still, completely supported by the bed beneath you. There's nothing left to do but surrender to sleep, to rest, to let go completely. You are safe. You are held. You are exactly where you need to be. And you can sleep now, deeply and peacefully, free from the weight you were never meant to carry. Let go, let go, let go, and sleep. If this journey through ancient wisdom has brought you even a moment of peace, a breath of relief, a subtle lightening of the burdens you carry, consider sharing it. Leave a like if this resonated with you. Subscribe to this channel for more explorations of sleep, consciousness, and ancient wisdom for modern living. The weight you've been carrying, so much of it was never yours. And now you know you can set it down. Not just tonight, but tomorrow and the next day and every day for the rest of your life. One breath at a time, one release at a time, learning to carry only what's truly yours and to let go of everything else. May your sleep be deep and restorative. May you wake tomorrow a little bit lighter. And may you remember, whenever the weight threatens to return, that you have the wisdom now, from Islam, from Lao Tzu, from the Stoics, to recognize what's yours to carry and what you can release. Rest well, dear friend. The universe will take care of itself while you sleep.